Trespassing in a Child's Head Unwillingly by Kitty Cat on AO3. Chapter 36. The Cake. Izuku groaned, his head still pounding. There was something heavy on his chest, and he huffed, trying to push it off. The thing made a sound before it moved. He turned over, gripping his head in pain. The weight was back on him in a second, pressing onto his side. It took a moment before the pounding stopped, enough for him to hear anything over it. Izuku! Izuku! Someone, Kachan, yelled. He groaned, slapping his hand over Kachan's face. Shut up, he whispered, even that motion making his stomach churn. He turned back over and opened his eyes to see Kachan. His middle finger was straight up in Izuku's face. Izuku chuckled slightly before he groaned again. Took you fucking long enough, Kachan muttered, smiling slightly. He rubbed at his eyes, stifling a yawn. How long? Izuku asked, again feeling the ache from speaking. Kachan hummed, shaking his head. A fucking week, Izuku. What the fuck were you thinking? His voice raised at the end, before he took a deep breath. You could have gotten killed, he whispered, his voice cracking slightly. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Are you actually crying? Izuku asked, punching his friend on the shoulder. Truthfully, he was glad to see anyone. The Vestige plane had felt like years. He hadn't been able to leave it, no matter how hard he tried. He wasn't sure why he had left it now. Kachan shoved his hand away as he rubbed his eyes. Fuck you, he muttered, before he lay his forehead on his hands. You fucking scared me, Izuku. Izuku frowned, glancing away. Sure, he had seen Kachan cry before, but nothing like this. Izuku hated how it made him feel, to be the cause of his best friend, his brother, crying like this. I'm sorry, Izuku managed to mumble. He tried to sit up before he hissed in pain. Ow, he muttered, covering his eyes. Kachan still didn't say anything, and the silence was driving Izuku insane. All he had had was silence in the Vestige plane. Talk to me, Kachan? He mumbled, hoping he would understand, or just that he wouldn't question it. Kachan hummed. Auntie is back at the house right now. I just managed to convince her to go stay with Mom and Dad. She's a wreck. You and all... Anyways, he cut himself off before starting another thought. You got hurt. The doctors say that if that decay had continued any higher, that you would have been in danger of bleeding out and... Decay? Izuku whispered, moving his hands from his face. Kachan, what do you mean, decay? Kachan's face went white as he swallowed. He muttered right as the door opened. People in scrubs rushed in, and Kachan was let out before he could tell Izuku what he meant. Izuku felt sick. What happened to me? He asked one of the nurses, but he was ignored as they talked amongst themselves. One grabbed a needle and syringe from a drawer, and Izuku shook his head. Just hold on, they said, getting closer. Izuku shook his head, trying to sit up. No, I'm fine, He screamed in pain as he moved, and his head fell back on the pillow. He watched as they inserted the needle and pushed the plunger through spots in his vision. Something was very wrong. And then he was back in the Vestige plane. When he awoke again, he was careful not to move. He didn't want them to come back with the needle. He didn't want to be sent back there, into the nothingness that made him hear things that weren't there and imagine the Vestiges where they should be. They still hadn't come back. He sighed and opened his eyes, staring up at the roof. Kachan? He whispered, and the words hurt less than they had last time. No one responded, and he groaned, turning over on his side. Kachan wasn't here this time, but Mama was, tucked right beside the bed. She slept quietly, her face set in worry. He bit his lip and glanced away. He hated seeing her like this, to know he had caused this pain to her. Mama, he whispered, a little louder than the first time. She stirred and sat up, yawning as she rubbed at her eyes. Zuku? Baby? She stood up quickly, taking his hand. Oh, you're awake. She tried to whisper it, but it was still loud in the small room. She held his hand tightly, kissing it as she sighed. You worry me so much. He nodded, taking a deep breath. I know. I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't break my promise. I thought I could change them. His words broke at the end, and he scoffed, wiping his eyes with the hand his mom wasn't holding. She shook her head, pushing hair from his face. Don't apologize, Zuko. I love your heart. She kissed his forehead, and he could feel tears hit his skin. Just talk to an adult first. It doesn't have to be me. But I can't go through that again, baby. She rambled slightly, but he didn't mind it. Her voice was so soft and warm. She went to pull away, but he wrapped his arms around her. I'm so sorry, Mama, he whispered again, ignoring the shooting pain from the movement. She laughed slightly, hugging him tightly. When he finally let go of her, they were both a crying mess, tears running down cheeks. It took a moment for her to speak again. Izuku, baby, you did it. She whispered it, holding his hand tightly. He's gone. Izuku nodded hesitantly. He knew that much. If he hadn't succeeded, he wouldn't be waking up right now. Shinso? He whispered. His mom nodded, and he sighed, smiling slightly. There is something else, though, she mumbled, her eyes dropping to the floor. A lot more things. Izuku swallowed, wiping his eyes. I know about him. All Might, he clarified. He had seen the body through a filter. It was there, though. He had felt it through Yoichi. The moment that All Might had joined the Vestige plane, before he had done what he had done. His mom started before a sob escaped her, and she shook her head. I thought I had gotten over him. I guess I was wrong. She chuckled at that last part, but it didn't sound right. He didn't trust himself to speak. He didn't even know what he could tell her. That it would be okay? He didn't even know if he believed that. Instead of speaking, he placed his other hand over hers. The motion of turning made him hiss in pain. Are you all right, baby? She asked, standing up quickly. Here. She reached across his bed before he could stop her, pressing the red call button by his bed. He groaned, fighting through the pain to sit up. Mama, I'm fine. I don't want to go back to sleep. He hated how whiny he sounded trying to plead with her. He couldn't go back to the plane, back to being alone. She frowned, kissing his head. They're just going to give you some medicine for the pain, and... She stopped talking as he shifted again. Mom, he said softly, his hand shaking slightly. Why can't I feel my leg? His mom didn't respond, her eyes stuck on their intertwined hands. He let go of one of her hands, resting it on the blanket. He went to move it before he paused. Did he want to see what was under it? He couldn't feel his left leg at all. There was just nothing. It was heavy, but that was it. He wiggled his toes, his eyebrows tightening when only his right legs moved. Mom, he whispered again, looking over to her. She bit her lip, finding his eyes. Izuku, I'm so sorry, baby. The words were pained and his stomach sank. I didn't think... The door opened and Izuku tensed up, expecting a slew of people again. Instead, only Dr. Suzenji entered, the door shutting behind her without a sound. Ah, Midoriya, she said, not even stuttering on deciding who was fronting. Maybe they could all tell he was alone now. He nodded to her, too scared to speak. He didn't want to cry again tonight. Doctor, His mom stopped talking as Dr. Suzenji patted her shoulder. She pulled some pills from her pocket, popping open the lid with one hand. I'm sure you have plenty of questions, Midoriya. I'm sorry I couldn't be here when you woke up the last time. It's been quite busy for us healers recently. She laughed as if it was all a joke, placing pills in Izuku's hand. She handed him a cup of water as well, something she must have carried in with her. What is it? He whispered, staring down at the small white pills. She shrugged slightly. Caffeine pills. I think you've done enough resting due to my quirk. She smiled at him softly, and he nodded as he took them. Anything, so he didn't go back there. When he finished the water, he sighed. My leg. Why can't I move it? Dr. Suzenji nodded, and his mom backed away so she could stand by the bedside. Understand that I did what I could. By the time we reached you, the decay had spread deep. The marble quirk only did so much. She smoothed out the edge of the blanket, looking at him intently. Your spinal cord was damaged. Izuku sucked in a breath, staring down at his leg. He didn't know much about medicine, but he knew what a damaged spinal cord meant. Instead of asking or moving the blanket, he changed the topic, something he was familiar with. What happened when Mr. Compress used his quirk? He asked softly. Dr. Suzenchi nodded. I cannot say for certain. All I know is that he and the League brought you to me on the backlines. The decay had stopped. However, it was too late by then. All for One's quirk seems to have sped up Shigaraki's. She let him change the subject, giving him more information. If he could focus on that, on something else. He huffed and grabbed the blanket tighter. Dr. Suzenchi went to say something, but he ripped off the blanket, dropping it to the floor beside the bed. He stared down at his leg, his eyebrows twisting in confusion. It's still there, he said quietly before he laughed. It's still there, he repeated, laughing harder. Maybe it wasn't a lot to anyone else, but his leg was still there. He couldn't move it, couldn't feel it, but he was all there. He hadn't lost anything else. Izuku groaned, rubbing his armpit as he leaned against the wall. God, I wish they would just let me buy a better cane, he muttered, rolling his shoulder out. It pulled awkwardly, making him hiss in pain. Kachan snorted, shaking his head. He leaned on the wall beside Izuku, dropping his head to rest on his shoulder. They've already told you that you have to use the basic one in physical therapy. Don't be a dumbass. He stood up again, punching Izuku gently. Izuku yelled, grabbing his cane quickly. He used it to support himself before he fell, glaring over at Kachan, who shrugged. They say that I'm gaining strength back and quicker than most, he sighed, adjusting the cane so he could lean his chin on the top of it. You think they're helping me? Kachan didn't bother to ask who he meant. It was all Izuku had been able to ramble about for the past month. It wasn't like he had school anymore. His mom had barely agreed to let him go to the therapy appointments without her. He was already planning on asking Nezu to re-enroll him now that he had most of his energy back, though. Maybe, Kachan finally muttered, biting his lip. He didn't say anything else, and Izuku sighed. He hated the silences. He shifted back onto the wall, using the cane to step on Kachan's toe. Kachan hissed in pain, flipping Izuku off. Come on, Izuku said, moving off the wall. I want to go check out some hero merch before the stores close. Kachan huffed, but followed anyway. Izuku knew he was slower now. With the constant ache in his leg and the awkward shambling of the cane, it wasn't surprising. But walking with Kachan felt normal. His friend slowed for him, and his presence alone made sure people gave him a wide berth. Kachan flicked his forehead, and he jumped, catching himself as he almost fell again. Get the fuck out of your head and pay attention, nerd. If you eat it, I'm laughing at your ass. Izuku laughed, flipping off Kachan, before he used both hands to keep his balance. Fuck off, he giggled. Izuku bowed his head, his eyes locked on the floor in front of him. He could feel Kachan's gaze on his back, but he ignored it as he stood back up. The line was long, but Izuku knew it could be longer. Nezu had limited the funeral to UA students All Might had taught and his close friends. Second time, huh? Kachan asked, a small smile on his lips as he walked up beside Izuku. Izuku flipped him off, grunting as he collapsed back into his chair. He rested the cane in front of him, leaning his head on it. He knew Kachan didn't mean anything by it. He was trying to hold back his own tears. Still, the joke didn't sit well. He had just met the man again. He glanced up, watching his mom across the room. She was with the detective and other adults. He couldn't see any signs she was crying, though. Her shoulders didn't shake, and her gaze was locked forward. She was the one this was going to hurt the most. Kachan nudged him, and he looked back over. He wanted me to tell you that Kachan's voice broke, and he tried to disguise it with a small cough. It took a moment before he spoke again, and Izuku frowned when his bottom lip quivered. He said he loved you. The words sucked the air out of Izuku as he collapsed onto his friend's shoulder. He let the cane drop to the floor, ignoring the loud crash as he wrapped his arms around Kachan. He let the tears come fully. his hands tightening on Kachan's shirt. "Hey, Izuku," Kachan mumbled from beside him. It had been a week since Izuku had seen his father for the last time. Things weren't normal anymore. He didn't know if they would ever go back to being normal. Everything just felt wrong. Izuku knew he was lucky to just be alive, and that didn't even feel real. "What's up?" he responded, shifting his cane so it was out of the way. Kachan sighed, rubbing his eyes. "Have they come back?" His voice was small, as if he was even afraid to ask it. Izuku had been dodging all mention of them. "How do you know they were gone?" Izuku whispered. Kachan hummed, staring up at the ceiling. "You fight to go to sleep. You haven't switched out. You've been dodgy and quiet." He looked over, grinning slightly. "I may not be a nerd like you, but I'm smart enough." Izuku chuckled. "I don't know if smart is what I'd call you," he mumbled under his breath. Kachan scoffed, and Izuku punched his shoulder. "But no," Izuku said finally. I think forcing All for One into the plane." He swallowed, fighting not to cry. "It might have killed them." Kachan scoffed. "They were already dead, idiot." "You know what I mean." Izuku braced himself as the train lurched to a stop, the doors opening slowly. Is it bad that part of me hopes they don't come back?" Kachan raised an eyebrow as people filed out. They had to be the last ones out because of the cane. "Why?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Izuku shrugged, standing up as everyone left. The cane fit snugly under his arm, one that they had recently bought. He still went to therapy to strengthen his leg, but he had talked them into him using a better cane. I don't think it'll be just the 7 of them anymore." Kachan hummed, following him out. The school was still a walk a ways, but he enjoyed the fresh air. "I'm sure you can still talk Nezu into letting you into the hero course." Kachan offered a subject change. Izuku was a little disappointed, but it was for the best. There was no point in discussing possibilities if the Vestiges never came back. "No, I could barely convince Mom to let me get back into general studies." He chuckled slightly. Kachan hummed, letting the walk fall into silence. Izuku filled it. "So, I was thinking, if I could convince a support student to help me out, I may be able to get a brace. I've already designed prototypes, but I don't have all the experience needed to work with leather or metal. Of course, I'd have to convince Nezu first, and he still scares me. I think he was really starting to enjoy the Vestiges, especially Kudo. I don't know if..." Izuku wasn't sure how much he actually rambled about. It wasn't until they reached the 1A door that Kachan stopped. "Izuku," he said gently, tapping his arm. Izuku jumped, chuckling as he stopped. "Sorry, my head's all over the place." Kachan nodded. "You coming in?" He gestured to the slightly open door. Izuku could already hear the chatter from inside. He shivered slightly, shaking his head. Kachan sighed. "Izuku, you know this is where you belong." "Kachan," he shook his head slowly. "Even if I wanted to, which I don't anymore, I couldn't at all. I don't have the Vestiges, and I don't have fully working limbs." He shook his cane for emphasis, and Kachan smacked it out of the way gently. Kachan matched his stare before he sighed. Okay. We'll figure out what we do together after school, okay?" Izuku hesitantly nodded. It wasn't worth arguing with Kachan now. "Okay," he whispered. He didn't wait for Kachan to go inside, sidestepping his friend. He heard him scoff, but ignored it. His first day with the Vestiges, without the Vestiges to back him up. He was caught in his work since he had nothing else to do for the past while, but being back was strange. It was loud, and there were people everywhere. He could hear multiple conversations at the same time, but he couldn't process it in any. Someone bumped into his cane, stumbling slightly. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said before she paused. "OMG, Midoriya?" Watanabe squealed, bouncing even closer. "I didn't think we'd ever see you again. We were taking bets on whether or not you'd come back to school." Izuku cleared his throat, trying not to get a word out. Watanabe was far too close. He shifted his cane further back, out of reach of her foot. "Hey, Watanabe," Hiroki said, sliding up beside her. "Who?" He glanced over, and his eyes went wide. "Midoriya. Hi." Izuku nodded, glancing at the floor. Hi, I'm back. He hated the words that shook when he said them. Hiroki nodded. How have you been? We were all worried about you. We thought your house may have been in Hosu or something. Izuku frowned, shaking his head slightly. He paused before he nodded. Tsukiyuchi had kept him out of the media and removed all news reports tapes of Hosu. It never happened. Hey, why are you using that cool-looking cane? Watanabe asked, going to reach for it. Hiroki grabbed her hand and Izuku let out a breath of relief. Don't do that, Emmy, he said softly. Are you all right, Midoriya? Izuku nodded, shifting his weight off the cane as much as he could. Yeah, well, I hurt myself doing... Yeah, I can still use it. It's just weak and all, but he stopped talking, glancing between the pair. Watanabe chuckled, sliding up next to him. Cool. Mind if I carry your book bag then? I'm sure the class is dying to see you again. Izuku tried to argue, but she took his bag quicker than he could say anything. Hiroki chuckled slightly, walking with them. If she gets too much, just let me know. Since Shinso's not coming back, you're going to be a very welcome sight. Shinso? Izuku asked, struggling to keep up with the faster walkers. Hiroki chuckled. Sorry. Yeah, he's staying with 1A now. Sucks since we were just getting to know the dude. Izuku, Yoichi whispered, and Izuku jerked around from his chair. No one was there, though. Still, Yoichi? He whispered, pushing the chair out to stand up slowly. Where are you? It was silent, and Izuku sighed, shaking his head. Wishful thinking was all that it was, all it had been. Izuku, Nana said this time. Her voice carried on a non-existent wind, floating everywhere in the plane at once. He turned around, and still no one was there. Why can't I see you? What happened? Please just come back. He forced down a cry that had come from nowhere. He missed them so much. There was a rush of cold air, and he shivered, stepping around himself. Here, his leg was fine, but he still stumbled, now used to it being weaker. Nana? Dai? Anyone? A slight breath, and he groaned, wiping tears from his eyes. Izuku, breathe, Bruce said gently. His voice brought another sob pouring from Izuku's throat. He stumbled to the floor, wiping at his eyes again. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill you, and Toshi, I killed him, and all for one, and there was something touched his shoulder, and he jumped, spinning around to land on his butt. There was something in front of him. He couldn't figure out what it was. Every color of the rainbow blended together, shifting and mixing, but never dirtying to grays or browns. The shape was vaguely human, but it was taller or shorter, larger or slimmer. You did not kill me, Midoriya, a new voice said. All Might. It came from the strange form in front of him, though he couldn't see any mouth move. I knew that would happen in that fight. We all did, Yoichi agreed, the voice coming from the same strange figure. It wasn't scary how it should be. Sure, it was a twisting mess of vague human limbs and voices, but there was something about it that was so comforting to him, the fact that they were here again. He took a deep breath, trying to force himself to speak. It took a moment before the words managed to tumble out. How? What happened? I thought that, I don't know. I only wanted to break Tomura from his hold, and that Tomura is gone now, along with Kurogiri and the rest. I didn't save them. I endangered others and... Kid, and said, his voice tinged with annoyance like always. Shut the fuck up. You did nothing wrong. You just acted without thinking. Izuku chuckled slightly. A common trait of yours, Dai chimed in, chuckling as well. Izuku nodded, staring at the strange mix. I missed you guys, he mumbled, reaching out to hug them. But his arm slid right through, and he hit the floor again as they moved away. Oh, he whispered. Yoichi sighed. It took everything from us, Izuku. All our energy to hold him back from you. We barely got enough to come back now. Izuku nodded, covering his face with his hands. They had seen him crying hundreds of times before, but he didn't want to show them now. It was so wrong to be upset at something he had done. It was on him that this had all happened. None of them spoke, but Izuku could feel their presence nearby. If he just kept his eyes shut, it would be how it had always been. He didn't need to believe any differently. He sighed, dropping his hands after a few minutes. I want to give you to Kachan if I can, he whispered. The words surprised even him slightly as he sat up. Toshinori was the first to speak. The quirk shouldn't hurt him anymore. It's only him it has to protect now, and... Izuku shook his head. It will hurt him, though. Just like it hurt all of you, and... Well, I think now that the quirks have had a chance to settle, separate from all of you, maybe they'll regulate better, and Kachan won't... He can't die young. Are you sure this is what you want? Bruce asked softly. Izuku nodded, and he sighed. You know we won't stop you. Nana spoke next, her voice small. Izuku, you know we'll always be there, right? Even if you don't have us. We'll always be watching over you. Izuku shut his eyes, trying to picture them all around him, their kind smiles and words. This is what's best, he whispered. I don't want to be a hero anymore like you guys. It's just not as glamorous as it once was, he finally decided. Hokage huffed. Being a hero ain't all that, he admitted, laughing slightly. You should look into the police force, kid. They deserve a shit ton more recognition for the work they put in. Izuku could almost see the others nodding in agreement. Tsukuyuchi would take you in, Toshinori whispered. He's not as scary as he looks. Toughen the fuck up, kid, and said, and Izuku could swear his voice hitched. Use that damn cane of yours to whack someone's balls if they try to mess with you. Izuku laughed, smiling up at the ceiling. Thank you, guys. I don't know if I could have done anything without you, he admitted softly. Dai laughed loudly, and Izuku could swear he saw his goofy smile on the figure before it was gone. The crap you did wasn't because of us, mister. It was because of you and the fact that you got your butt up to work. Izuku went to say something before Yoichi spoke. I'm sorry, but we're running out of energy already, Izuku. His voice was strange, and Izuku could hear the gravel in it. We love you, Izuku. Don't ever forget that. Okay, Izuku said, wiping more tears. I promise. By the time he turned to look at the figure again, it was gone, and he was alone again. This time it didn't feel so bad. Fuck no, Kachan said, shaking his head. He shifted further up onto the couch, looking down at his phone. I'm not taking the vestiges from you. Izuku huffed. Come on, it'll be better for you than it is for me. No, Kachan stated, putting down his phone. I'm not living with some creepy-ass old people in my head. Plus, they're yours. You'll get the quirks back, and you can get into the hero course next year. He leaned onto his knee, raising an eyebrow. Izuku sighed, rubbing his eyes. Kachan, please. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be in the hero course, and I'm not going to be a hero. Izuku, Kachan said, his voice dropping slightly. This is all you've ever wanted. You can't give it up because All Might wasn't a good father. We promised ourselves that we would be heroes to save everyone we could. He paused, and Izuku went to speak before he continued. What will you tell Eri? You promised her too. Don't, Kachan, Izuku warned. It's not worth it. I don't think I could do that to Mama. And I need more help with my leg, even if I got a brace for it. He straightened it out, wincing at the sharp bolt of pain that ran up it. The scar at his spine itched, and he groaned, setting his leg down. I can't be a hero anymore. Kachan was silent, which already made Izuku's skin itch. Kachan was never silent in an argument. Kachan, Izuku said, standing up to move to the other couch. Kachan sat up, but Izuku waved him away as he plopped down beside him. It just isn't going to work like that. I can still help. There's other fields and... Baby? His mom whispered. She was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed over his chest. Is that true? She asked softly, walking over. Izuku nodded hesitantly. I mean, I still want to do something. I was going to ask the detective if I could intern with him this summer. Or I could work with the commission as a handler and maybe get assigned to Kachan and... I don't know. He paused, shrugging slightly. I can't be a hero anymore. His mom sighed, kissing his forehead as she leaned back on the couch. Please don't do anything for me. You said you worried about me, but... She sighed, rubbing his shoulders. Not just for me, right? Izuku laughed slightly, shaking his head. Don't worry, Mama. I've been thinking about this before everything, since I learned about him. It's just not worth it to me, you know? There's other ways to save people. She nodded, and he wiped a tear from her cheek, leaning over the back to look at her. I just don't like it, Kachan muttered, and Izuku sat back up to look at him. But I understand it. Just don't try to change my mind. I'm going to beat the villains' asses into the ground. Izuku's mom gasped, flicking Kachan in the forehead. You stop with that language, she scolded before she laughed slightly. I'm so proud of you boys. Both of you. She wrapped them in a hug, kissing the tops of their head. Love you, Mom, Izuku muttered. Kachan didn't say anything, and Izuku punched his leg. He scoffed before mumbling, Love ya, Auntie. Hey, Mito, Kirishima yelled, slipping into the seat across from him. How you feeling? Izuku sighed, leaning onto his hand. He had already almost finished his food by the time the Hero Course students finally made it in. Hey, Kirishima, Kaminari. He nodded at the other boy who grinned. I'm fine. It was the same answer he had given everyone who asked, over and over like a broken record. Stop asking him that, dimwits, Kachan stated, smacking his tray down on Kirishima's head. Auntie send you with any treats for me? Izuku laughed slightly, shifting so Kachan could sit down. Kirishima wiggled closer to Kaminari, allowing him to put his leg on the bench across. Yep. He popped the pea, setting Kachan's cookie on the table. I had a bite or two while I waited. Kachan scoffed, holding up half a cookie. A bite or two? You fucking ate all of it. Izuku went to grab it back, but Kachan snatched it away. What? I'll go ahead and eat it all, since I apparently already did. Kachan flicked his forehead before he shoved the cookie into his mouth. So, Izu, Kaminari said, letting the nickname trail out. Izuku glanced over to him, and he hesitated. Well, it's just... I haven't seen the others in some times, and I know the girls were asking, and... Well, are you sticking around more, or... Izuku hesitated before he shrugged. The others aren't actually... They're gone. Kirishima choked on a bite of rice, coughing. What? He managed to mumble out before he chugged water. It took a moment for him to compose himself, hitting his chest. Where are they? He finally asked. Izuku shrugged. Just gone. He glanced over to Kachan, but he ignored his gaze. They, decided that I was okay without them? The answer came out more of a question than an actual answer. Is that how DID works? Kaminari asked. I did some research, and they're gone, shitface, Kachan snapped, clenching the wrapper in his hand tightly. Izuku nudged him, but he didn't respond. Just leave it alone, okay? He asked, his gaze locked on the table. Kaminari nodded slowly, glancing at Kirishima, who shrugged. Well, did you cut your hair, Mito? Kirishima asked, trying to change the topic. Izuku nodded, messing with the ends. Yeah, I kept it long for the others, and... He paused, sighing. You guys mind if I steal Kachan for a bit? Kaminari shook his head, turning to face Kirishima to talk about something else. Izuku groaned, bending his legs slowly. Go, he ordered Kachan. It took a moment before he huffed and slid out of the seat, allowing Izuku to follow. Despite his obvious anger, Kachan didn't speed away from Izuku. He was faster now with the brace supporting the leg, but he wasn't back to running speed yet. Power Loader promised him it would take time, probably because Nezu was forcing him to help Izuku out. He shook his head as they neared an abandoned area, stopping. What's up with you? He asked, punching Kachan on the shoulder. He sneered, shoving Izuku's hand away. Don't fucking worry about it. Izuku sighed. Is it that it quirks? Are they hurting you? You're looking out for any new bruises or strained muscles, right? And how it interacts with your original quirk? If I can see some sessions, I can make a notebook and... Kachan flicked him in the forehead and he shut up. That's your fucking problem. You're so focused on other people that you don't see yourself. Izuku frowned and Kachan huffed. You're skipping sleep again, putting off the damn workouts you're supposed to do. You haven't called the detective despite you telling me you will over and over. He groaned, running a hand through his hair. I'm worried about you. Izuku didn't say anything, but he laughed. It's nice that you're worried about me, he admitted, grinning. But don't be. I've just been trying to catch up on my work and everything. Plus, I have hangouts with Eri every other day now. I'm fine, he chuckled. Kachan nodded slowly. My class is going to the nearby park after school. You're coming. Izuku opened his mouth to argue before Kachan grinned. Else I'm messing with the screws on your brace tonight. Izuku gasped. Don't you dare, he yelled. These took so long to calibrate. Kachan shrugged and walked away. Kachan, Izuku called out, but Kachan picked up his pace. Oh, you bitch, Izuku muttered, following behind. Maybe things weren't how he had imagined when he was young, but that didn't mean things didn't work out. He could worry about the future another day. For now, he simply wanted to be a teenager. Okay. I think that was long enough pause. Again, recording in technically 2 because the first part you get those coughs, like you can't actually stop, and I didn't want to re-record, but the first part has like 1 in. Anyways, okay. So, yeah, it's very different than how I think a lot of you guys thought it was going to end, and you can clearly see the shift between most of them and then those last 3, because those last 3 were done like 2 months after the first ones. Definitely getting back into the swing of writing has been really difficult. Like, I've rewritten many of my stories multiple times over because it just doesn't sound right. Like, usually I'm pretty good at writing. Well, yeah, I don't want to sound egotistical, but usually I think I'm like fairly decent at writing, but these past little bit, after those 2 months between, it's been a lot harder to come back to writing than I thought it'd be. Speaking of that, I'm working on 3 different stories right now, so there's nothing more about trespassing in this thing. I just love them, and maybe eventually I'll make like actual fan art of the story, or do like a little storyboard animatic thing, because, you know, I'm actually in classes for those. But for now, that's it for Trespassing. If there is anything else, I'll probably post it on my YouTube, if it's, you know, an animatic or another chapter or like side story. It'll be posted on my YouTube and y'all will see it then. But for now, that's it for that. So thank you guys so much for listening. The rest of this is just going to be a little ramble about the rest of my stories I'm working on right now. Okay, so the first one I've started on a while ago. It's been through many iterations. It is a Izuku and Fumikage vigilante fic where they work together, and it's like, you know, Izuku's the planner and Fumikage is the one who carries out like the missions. That one I love. That one I just wanted some more Father Sukiyuchi, because I think he's a really underrated character and I wanted to play around with him more, and, you know, I wanted some more cute airy moments with them, and Fumikage's a cute character and I just love him. So that one isn't really like fully fleshed out. Right now it's at like 8 chapters. I think I'm wanting around 15 with that one, like 15 or 20. I don't want a lot with these stories. These aren't going to be big ones. Like, this was pretty big, and my largest one is like 200k. It's not going to be that 200k one is ridiculous, and I don't think I will ever reach that level again, because that was, you know, I was posting every day and the writing just was not great. It was back in high school, so, you know, it was a while ago I started writing that one. Okay, so that's kind of it for that first one, is I just kind of wanted something not cute, because it does deal with a lot of angst and things, but I wanted more Sukiyuchi, Father Sukiyuchi. The other one I'm working on right now is a Kyoka / Momo fanfiction, because I think we need more of them in our fanfictions, because they are such a cute couple, but their level of, like, if you look at their number of fics versus any other, like, couple ones, it's so much less, because girls' love just doesn't get as popular of a thing, which is so funny, because in case any of you guys don't know, I'm actually, like, I'm dating a woman right now, and I love her, and she's amazing. She's, like, my whole world, and just, oh, she makes me so giddy. Anyways, so, like, to me, I love those kinds of ships. I just don't actually write them all. I've written more gay ships and more straight ships than I've ever touched on a lesbian ship or a woman-loving woman ship. So that one's been a lot of fun for me. It's a vampire AU where Momo is a vampire and you have all her supernatural siblings that Midnight's kind of adopted into this household. And then you have Kyoka and her bandmates, the Boku squad, who just happen to stumble upon this mansion in the woods, and they kind of get trapped there, and it's all up to Kyoka to get them out. And it's heavily based on the song May I Have This Dance by Rihanna, which, if you haven't heard it, it's so good. It's like woman loving woman vampire hunter thing. Really good, highly recommend. This story also takes a lot of a lot of inspiration from, I don't know if any of you guys did like Minecraft role plays back in the day. They were like my thing. Like, I did so many Minecraft role plays. I had on like Creative Fun, if you guys have ever been on Creative Fun on Minecraft servers, great one for Minecraft role plays. I used that, and I actually had like my own really massive role plays I would do. Like, I had the entire map created. I employed the help of multiple different really great builders. I met one of my best friends through that server. Like, even now, 6 years later, 7, I don't even know. She's still like one of my best friends, and I met her through the server. So a lot of that is based on this story, and maybe eventually I kind of want to write like an original work based on the campaign that the roleplay that we played on that server with her. I don't, she doesn't know I write fan fiction at Reed, but I don't think I'll ever show her that one. But it holds a special place in my heart, so I definitely heavily based it off of that, because a lot of those were like, oh, your bus crashed in the middle of the woods, and oh no, there's vampires, and then the last one that I'm currently working on is a mustard-centered fic. So in case any of you like forgot anything, Mustard is one of the villains recruited for the training camp arc, but we see him for like very little time, and he gets arrested, and we never hear about him again. But it's so interesting to me of what would drive a kid that young, because I think he's younger than the 1A students. Like, he's a middle school student, and yet he has no qualms with just shooting any of the students in the head. Because he doesn't even just use his quirk. He carries around an entire Glock and is just happily willing to do that. And it's just such an interesting thing of what drives someone that young to be so willing to kill. Because with Himiko, it's actual bloodlust, like she's psychotic. And that's because of her quirk and the way she was raised. But Mustard isn't psychotic. He's shown to be really smart, and he actually scolds Himiko for her wanting to like be aggressive without any real plan. So he's like, I don't know, he's a really fun character, and I want to do one very much centered on him and his family and what kind of drove him to be in the league. And maybe I'll have him, eventually end up with 1A, maybe a ship with one of the 1A members, or 1B, or Shinso, or Mei, which, could be. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for me, and I will see you guys once I start work on one of my other series or my one-shots. This will be posted Monday, so that'll be posted Wednesday, and I will see you there.